Welcome back, one and all, to the Control Your Epps-perience podcast. I'm the namesake, Alan Epps. Welcome you back again. Wasting your time with me, of course. Again, recording on a Monday. Played myself this whole weekend. But there's a decent amount of stuff to talk about. I had a guest in town, so I was playing host. So I'll try to do each topic justice without making it drag. So with that, let's get into it. NFL news. Carson Wentz looks like he got traded to the Colts. I was surprised. Well, I wasn't surprised. I didn't know how the Eagles were really going to handle it. I know he demanded a trade, but I know that they had contract issues. So who was going to pick that contract up off of him? I don't know. But he got traded to the Colts. They gave up like a third and fourth round, a second round pick and a third round pick in the next two drafts. But I didn't really get into what's happening with the contract situation. It kind of makes sense because the Colts rode Phillip Rivers, who I believe retired, and so they're vacant. So even if they do have to pick up his contract, I think it's cheap to maybe wait to see if Carson rebounds or if they're able to sign another quarterback next year in the draft. So it's an immediate need for the Colts, but they got, I guess there's some equity there. But I was just wondering what they were going to do with that, or if they were going to let Jalen Hurts trade Jalen Hurts because he's on the upside. But who knows? Especially since they got rid of that coach. And then it's coming out that over the last several weeks before Carson was benched, he hadn't even talked to Doug Peterson, who ended up getting fired by Philly. So it's no surprise that I'm not going to blame Carson's relapse on that, but you can't expect to perform at a high level when you won't even coordinate with your fucking coach. So, yeah, whatever. Cowboys still haven't signed Dak, so that's really all I'm worried about. More pressing news. So, of course, touched on it last week about the blizzard in Texas, but the situation is quite grave, and lives have been lost outside of just that 100-plus car pileup that happened when the blizzard first hit. So, for those of you who don't know, the entire U.S. for the most part is on a power grid, if you will. Obviously, to distribute power to various residential areas, rural areas, whatever it may be. But the benefit of the power grid is that if and when, a town or even a state, which is kind of unprecedented for a whole state to go down, but if there's a large swath of area that, for whatever reason, lost power, because you're on the national grid, if you lost power because your local power producing capacity has somehow diminished. So let's say you had hydroelectric power. Let's say you had, your own local power stations generating off of natural gas, whatever they need. If your infrastructure went down, but the power lines were still up, power could be rerouted from neighboring states and stuff like that, as long as those lines were intact. In addition to your infrastructure going down, let's say it was a tornado or something and it chopped up a bunch of lines, well then the crew's first priority would be to get the lines back up so that power could get rerouted, and then they can work on the power plant so that they can then start producing for their own selves. That's one of the benefits. Of course, with that, with any federal utilities, you are subject to oversight on the federal level, because now think of it like a Christmas light. If you don't keep your plant up, then if we're trying to reroute resources to a state neighboring you and you're the weak link in the chain, you can compromise them on the other side. And of course, with federal regulation, you have to pay fees, you get taxed, and things have to be up to federal standards and codes, which cost money. You have to renovate, you have to update, weatherproof your systems and stuff like that. Well, Texas, being Texas, and lawn flouting their willingness and desire to secede from the Union, has long since the 90s, I believe, had their own independent power grid, which sounds cool. We're a state, we're functioning in autonomy and everything like that. But what it really came down to, and that's how it's sold to the Texas residents and their way of life, that whole "don't mess with Texas" aura, was that we're gonna stay independent. This way, the federal government can't raise your energy bills with their own overregulation and taxes and stuff like that. With Texas makes its own power, we can make our own way. Sounds good, right? But in actuality, what are you actually doing? It's almost like agreeing to help a slumlord where, yeah, the power works right now in these ideal conditions, but we're not going to update our infrastructure. We're not going to bury the lines. We're not going to do all this other stuff that the federal government has identified as necessary for a healthy power plant, because it costs money. And why? We're Texas. It's hot. We don't need to prep for blizzards. We don't get these flash floods and stuff like that. Who cares? And for the longest time, they're right, since the 90s. However, you get a freak blizzard in Texas, which is probably not going to be so freak anymore because it's well beheld that the weather pattern shifting is a direct result of climate change, aka formerly known as global warming. But of course, certain people, many of them Texans, think global warming is a myth. It's liberal propaganda. And how's everything getting warmer? How's the Earth getting warmer if we're getting cold? Ha 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 ha. There was a screen grab right after the blackout started. That 73% of the contiguous United States, so not necessarily not counting Alaska and Hawaii, the lower 48, 73% was covered in snow. Now, obviously not mile to mile, but of all the surface area, there was snow reported of varying depths, and that's never happened, or at least it hasn't been recorded before. The places that weren't were like Southern California, Southern Florida, and the southernmost tips of Texas. And that's insane. That is insane. So, of course, climate change being brought on by emissions from human cities, human factories, and stuff like that, and our continued dependency on fossil fuels, regardless of it's American or foreign provided, is changing the planet. In Texas, oil central, natural gas central, who have long flouted the concept of climate change, are now paying the price for it. But of course, instead of just dealing with it as is, they're worried about what they've always been worried about, which is their bottom line, their dollar. So because the plant went down, not only could power not be rerouted from neighboring states, but it's why it went down. So obviously the weather caused ice on lines and trees and whatnot to fall, physical damage to the plant. That's fine. But more nefariously, Texas's power plants are run by natural gas. They have generators that run off natural gas and everything like that. And so the utilities have to pay a premium or a price for said natural gas from the local producers in Texas. And I guess there was legislation passed that no matter to protect Texas residents from surging prices and everything like that, that if the price of natural gas went up, then the utility companies would have to pay that premium because Texas produces its own natural gas. We shouldn't have to, pay high prices to import it from other places and everything like that. So they're operating under the assumption that Texas will always be able to feed its own natural gas needs. All right, that's fine. However, because of the frozen roads and railways and pipelines and stuff like that, the actual infrastructure of the plants themselves freezing, the demand for natural gas went through the roof. So now the natural gas barons are able to charge what they want. People like Jerry Jones, the beloved and hated, at the same time, owner of the Dallas Cowboys. That's where he gets his money. But of course, the electric companies don't want to pay it because they want to protect their bottom line. So what they did was they framed it as rolling blackouts, which makes sense because, okay, we have X amount of energy we need to conserve, but we need to make sure everybody's needs are getting met. So we were going to conserve it by denying in this area, then rotating and rotating. Okay, fine. That's an emergency situation. Makes sense, right? But here's the issue. They cut the power, and it didn't come back on. Why didn't it come back on? Because in addition to the physical damage to the plant, they were stalling so that the Governor Abbott, could pass an executive order so that those surging natural gas prices could be transferred to the consumer of the electricity, i.e. Texans. So the power companies shut down their plant so they wouldn't have to provide energy during the time where they were liable for those fees. And then by the time the ordinance got passed, by the time they got it back up, they couldn't get power on to a lot of places. There are screenshots of pictures where in Dallas in particular, there's a highway where one side is lit up, and it's where I'm told are like the arenas, the expensive hotels, the condos, and stuff like that, where people with money live. Then you've got a large blacked out area that's purely residential, which, okay, that makes sense in the non-nefarious benefit of the doubt scenario, that if the power plant was damaged in such a way where the circuit was broken here, that could be beyond their control, that this area is blacked out, that's not. But then when they zoomed out of that picture, there's residential areas surrounding this one blacked out area that have power. And I'm told that the areas that were lit up are higher income areas, aka richer places, and I'm sure undoubtedly whiter areas. So, per usual, minorities and poor people are affected this most. And now that the power is starting to come back on, they're getting hit with the bills. Now I don't live in Texas, and I haven't seen the actual bills themselves. I have friends who live in. You guys remember that I did a guest spot with the Paris and Archer show, so they are in Texas now. So I'm waiting for them to hit me back with what their bill is looking like as far as charges and everything, so I can report on that. But it's just peak capitalism, peak Republican values. And again, I'm no Democrat, I'm no liberal, super. They're all fucked. But and the people are gonna vote them right back in power. And you know how I know that? Because Ted Cruz and his nerve, audacity, unmitigated gall took it upon himself to go to fucking Cancun while his state froze and his constituency suffered. Now, on the one hand, I mean, you got money, get the fuck out of there, right? But this is the same guy who has been on record. He voted against the Hurricane Sandy relief to New York because he said that it wasn't the federal government's place to be bailing them out. They should have been prepared. And it's no coincidence that New York is a blue state. He has been a blatant climate change denier. He said that he would believe in climate change once Texas froze over. Plot twist. What else has he done? He's just been a complete and total head ass, and he even spearheaded the trying to blame renewable energy as the cause for Texas's blackouts, which is laughable in itself. I'll get to that in a second. But this latest lie was that he got caught, and he's so cheap that he flew a commercial flight when he has the money and resources to get to a private jet. But he also lambasted other politicians flying privately during disasters in their area. So it's just complete and total hypocrisy. He flew to Cancun, then he threw his daughters under the bus trying to say that they had this trip planned and it would have been unfair, and he just was trying to be a good dad to chaperone them down. Mind you, even if that was the case, his wife went. She could have took them by them. How many parents does it take to chaperone? He had a carry-on packed to the gills full of shit, and his original itinerary, he was supposed to stay at least 3 days, but he booked his return ticket that morning after he got caught trying to get back immediately, and of course with that full carry-on. So it's just complete and utter bullshit. I would have respected him more if he just owned it. Like, look, I can't do anything from here. I got Wi-Fi. I'm still working. Some other bullshit other than the lies and everything like that. And what's even funnier is, Ted Cruz has long since been a herpy on the political phallus that is, the Senate and Congress. But he must irritate his own close circle of friends, and I say that with the air quotes, if you will, because text messages from the group chat where I guess his wife and him and several of their friends were leaked, where the wife was trying to recruit people to come with him, saying basically, it's cold, it sucks, come down, we've identified this location, they have great security, decent rates, we can all get out of this. So it's complete and utter bullshit, but I'm almost ready to bet that he's going to get voted right back in, because you've got Texans defending them, and one breath, what do they want Ted Cruz to do? And then in the very next breath, what's Biden doing? So why are you holding the president of the nation who you routinely threaten to secede from more responsible than the guy you know and directly voted for? When the president did what he was supposed to do, he signed the he declared the state of emergency, thereby allocating funds to help Texas. What else do you want him to fucking do? And again, I'm not necessarily I like a lot of things about Beto, but a lot of his politics disturb me. But at least nobody can accuse Beto of not serving. I can't even say his constituency, because Texas didn't vote for him. Serving Texas, getting out there, raising money. AOC, who they love to hate, and I hate that phrase, but no, Texans literally hate AOC. But she raised $3 million for relief for Texas. But Ted Cruz went down there to go get some margaritas, and now he's posting pictures of him, passing out water and all this other kind of bullshit. It's just funny to me, but whatever. Texas is going to vote for him again, and yeah. It's funny because there was some op-ed about how a ton of people are moving from California to Texas, and Texans are worried because they're worried they're going to bring their liberal politics and turn the state blue, and, I'm only worried about that because Texas is one of the last bastions of Second Amendment rights, and I would hate to see them lost because Californians took it over. But at the same time, it's like, that's about all they got going for them. So who knows? I don't care. I'm not giving up my guns regardless. So go red, go blue, whatever. But the lie about renewable energy was the first thing that poked out to me, because at best, and this is being super generous, I promise you the numbers are lower, but at best, 25% of Texas's renewable energy capacity 25% of Texas's energy output comes from renewable sources. Meaning, only 25% at the absolute most, and again, it's lower than that, comes from solar and comes from wind energy. I'm not sure where hydroelectric factors into that, but yeah, let's just say 20, for the sake of ease numbers, 25%, that's a quarter, comes from wind and solar respectively. And then they immediately, Governor Abbott and a bunch of course, Fox News and other Texan officials tried to cite that this is what a reason why Texas is frozen is because this crazy push for renewable energy that's just not yet there yet. It's why California can never keep their power on, and it's what's going to happen to the rest of the nation if we follow AOC and her crazy Green New Deal. But here's the thing. If a maximum of 25% of your power plant comes from renewable sources that you say are now failing you, why is it that your grid is so crushed by a loss of 25% capacity? I'm not saying that you can't have a loss of capacity that might cause rolling blackouts and everything, but that's not what's happening. You have people in the fucking dark for days with no heat for days. People are dying and freezing to death in their houses, lighting their houses on fire, trying to find other ways to keep it heated. Carbon monoxide poisoning. There are people, and these aren't one-offs. I saw at least 15 different deaths strictly related to the cold. And I'm sure as they thaw out, they're going to find more people dead in their houses. All because you lost 25% of your power plant. And I found that amazing because my house has solar panels on the roof. And I live in Maryland. And for a while the blizzard was hitting Texas, I don't think it got over 25 degrees here. We had some sleet, some snow, and everything like that. And not once did those solar panels freeze. In fact, they do a lot better. Well, I won't say better, but they do very well in snow and ice because snow and ice, the crystals, reflect sunlight. So the solar panels are able to absorb heat and thaw it. It's like when you're in my house in the middle of the day and that snow's about, it sounds like something's coming crashing through the roof because the shit can't stay frozen on there. So the solar panels aren't freezing, number one. And number two, for wind. So a lot of you may or may not know, I was in the Air Force for 5 years, and for 4.5 of those years, they banished me to the frozen northern wasteland known as Minot, North Dakota. Don't ever go there, black people. There is nothing for us out there. Nothing. Unless you're going to work in the oil field and then get your money and get the fuck out. But at any rate, I was up there and I had the privilege and misery of traveling the countryside either for work itself or just to go hunt. And there are quite a few windmills up there for renewable wind energy. And not once did any of those bitches freeze. Okay? Now I can say from looking at some of the pictures of the windmills used in Texas, they are a different model, and I don't know if that's just to optimize wind patterns. I don't know if they're older models, whatever, but I do know that they're different from the ones that I've seen up in North Dakota, and even the ones I've seen in still pictures in Antarctica where they have also wind farms. But the point is, these are places where it gets and stays infinitely colder than Texas, and the wind party don't stop. So you can't tell me that there is not a middle ground between the wind machinery that's in Texas right now and North Dakota and Antarctica to keep them running for just a cold snap, a week of cold weather. That's bullshit. Okay, but it just goes to show, it ties in with the point I made before, where Texas's move for an independent grid was not about, any sort of practical reason so much as being able to avoid federal regulation, meaning the federal government having a say in writing laws and forcing energy barons to pay money to comply with standards and being subject to being fined and everything like that. It was about protecting their bottom line. And now the people that they are supposed to serve, not only are they freezing and dying, but the ones that are alive, they're trying to tax them in the middle of a pandemic where people have been out of work. And we're talking about insane bills. I heard a rumor, and again, I haven't seen my friend's bills yet, of a $10,000 energy bill. That is fucking insane. All right? So I will definitely be following up on that. But there's just no way that even if 25% went down, we should be seeing the blackouts, the crisis that is in Texas strictly regarding energy, let alone the actual reason that they offered for the green energy freezing, when the vast majority of the failures have been affecting the natural gas pipelines and even the nuclear pipeline. Their equipment has been freezing, has not been updated, has not been weatherproof. Because for the longest time, we're in Texas, they don't get that cold here. Why do we need to do that? Yeah. So more to follow on that. I hope that there are class act. I saw as of today, Monday the 22nd, that the family of an 11-year-old boy who froze to death has filed a $100 million lawsuit against, I believe, a Texas energy company for his death. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if more were to follow from that. So, I'll definitely be keeping tabs on that. Where else? So, for those of you who are Dodge enthusiasts, the Mopar family, Mopar no car, it looks like this is going to be no car because Dodge is still a company, but they have gotten rid of their SRT, their famed SRT department, the department that brought you the Hellcat, the Demon. Yeah. So Chrysler has merged with Fiat, Jeep, Peugeot, and who else? Yeah, Jeep, Ram. I didn't even know Ram was its own brand, but Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Maserati, Peugeot, and Citroen have merged all together to form the fourth largest car maker, and under the new company called Stellantis. Which, I mean, that happens all the time. Like, people didn't know that for the longest time Mercedes-Benz owned Chrysler and all this other things. But the first thing that they did was that they got rid of the SRT department. Now, the optimists will say they're just going to call it something else, or they're still going to have a performance wing, but it's going to be more focused towards electric. And, I mean, that very well may happen. But at the face of it, if you look at the other brands that are part of this conglomerate, they're European. Peugeot, Citroen are known for feeding the European demand for cars, which are smaller cars that are looking for alternative fuels, because fuel prices have always been high in Europe. Even though we're complaining now about how high Americans are paying for gas, it's infinitely higher in Europe and has been. That's why if you ever see, like, movies where they take place, they're set over there, all their cars are tiny as hell, and a lot of people just don't own cars. They get cabs and everything, especially like in London and everything, because fuel prices are high, taxes just to own a vehicle. They don't have the American demand for these big, large cars or these big, powerful, fun sport cars and stuff like. And the ones who do are buying like Ferraris and stuff like that because they're insanely rich. So looks like to be the end of an era, at least for now. Hey, whether or not another SRT equivalent sprouts up, who knows? But yeah, I drive a Mustang, so it's not really my problem. Although that Mach-E, while I respect the engineering, I don't think it's a Mustang. I would have much rather they had rebadged it as brought the Pinto badge out of ruin and disgrace, and kept the Mustang a Mustang, because a Mustang is not a four-door hatchback. It's a fucking Mustang. It's a pony car, but whatever. At least we still have a Mustang for now. Yeah. Where am I looking at? So I'm in Facebook jail, by the way, which I'll get into in a minute. Why? But while I still had access to making posts and everything, I saw that there was a story or a quote from Jesse Owens. For those of you who, for whatever reason, don't know who Jesse Owens is. Jesse Owens was an American track star, a black track star who ran in the Olympics when Hitler was empowering Nazi Germany and had proclaimed that his master race was going to defeat everyone else, especially the Negroes. And of course, Jesse Owens went out there and thrashed them. But the quote, I mean, that's nothing new. But the quote was of Jesse. He said, "Hitler didn't snub me because I didn't expect Hitler to do anything but be Hitler. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is the one who snubbed me, because FDR is his president, who did not invite him. He invited evidently every other Olympic athlete to come to the White House, Olympic winner, except for Jesse Owens, who not only won but set world records in doing so. And I never thought of that. You know, FDR is kind of has a hallowed place in American history. He's the president who helped bring us out of the Depression and started World War. Well, not didn't start World War II, but led us in while we entered World War II. The New Deal. You know, he's just immortalized and did a lot of things that shaped this country to this day. Even like, you know, Republicans like to throw out we're the party of Lincoln and of Reagan and everything. Well, the Democrat, you know, equivalent to that is oftentimes FDR. And even for the I won't say hyper, but the super liberal parts of the Democrat Party, like AOC, they talk. That's why they call it the Green New Deal. They're likening it to the New Deal, which FDR passed in an effort to snap the Depression. So, like I said, left wing, right wing, same fucking bird. Doesn't surprise me in the least, but I was just not aware of that, and I might actually have to go look further into that to see if he even addressed it or he just act like it didn't happen. Because I'm 36, and that's the first I've ever heard of that. Oh damn. Well, at the time that I had earlier in this week, I wanted to shout out the Tuskegee women's basketball team because I am an alumnus of Tuskegee University. TU, you know. Our Lady Golden Tigers were undefeated up to, it looks like, a couple days ago, because now I'm seeing that they're 12-1 per their Twitter feed on the 21st. But they were undefeated, and they're still dominating, obviously, in first place, which I love to see. Keep doing what y'all are doing. Oh, shit. So I'm on Twitter, and I accidentally got directed to some snack on my yard, on Tuskegee's yard. I don't know who this shorty is. I'm going to have to stalk her. Shout out to Deja with hella A's. Yeah, let me put your bookmark that. There's the devil. Yes, I'm being the creepy Q that's on the yard, even though I'm not on the yard. What you want me to do? So, getting into movie news, I saw the preview. You know, I told myself I wasn't going to watch it, but I did just to be in the know. The preview for the Snyder cut of the Justice League movie is out, and it looks fucking amazing. And I want to temper my expectations because DC has got me excited before, and DC has let me down damn near every time, if not every time. And I refuse to go through that again. But it looks like they might be on. You know, the real question here is because Joss Whedon, who I never would have known was so toxic, not only just to the people working on his projects, but just the projects themselves. Because Joss Whedon gave us Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. You know, if you grew up in the 90s, well, if you were 80s baby, grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, that was your shit. He's been a part of so many TV classics that you didn't think he would be the issue here, but evidently people just do not like that fucker. And even now, Warner Brothers executives are coming on record that this movie, they knew it was trash, but they had to put it out. And I want to know how bad a movie has to be for the director of, you know, the movies and everything, the guy responsible for turning the product in, to be shooting his own version of the movie at the exact same time, basically using some of your footage as B-roll, but then shooting his own version so that it can add to it and make the movie the way it's supposed to be. That's insane to me. It's like he knew this was some shit, so he planned his own end game. And that's awesome to me because, you know, I'm always Marvel over DC, but DC is too important to us, to America, to the comic canon, to be so carelessly handled the way it is. There was a snip of Darkseid in there. There was Cyborg, like he was having more of a role. It looks amazing. So I'm optimistic as to what it's gonna be, but bated breath. Also, the Mortal Kombat trailer came out, which again, it too looked amazing, but almost too amazing. I feel like unless it's gonna be a long movie or unless they're gonna cover a lot of ground, I feel like they showed a lot more than they should have. Just giving away a lot what's going on in the movie, but at the same time raising some questions because there's some new Bamba there who looks to be some kind of washed up MMA guy, and somehow he has a Mortal Kombat tattoo, and I guess they're alluding to he's been chosen to enter the tournament. It almost seems like it's gonna be centered around him, like Liu Kang isn't right fucking there. And then two, no mention of fucking Johnny Cage. Now a lot of people are coming up with these crackpot theories, which is cool because that means there's excitement behind the movie. That the new guy is actually somehow Scorpion reborn, even though Scorpion is already in the movie as Scorpion. So I don't know what that's all about. There's another theory that Kano has been made into a good guy, which I think is not necessarily the case. I think he's a bad guy who was representing Earth, but it's going to double cross him. That's in line with his backstory and everything like that. They're trying to. It's like some people are just ignorant to the Mortal Kombat storylines, which, don't get me wrong, could be retconned through all this, which I hope not, because they finally fleshed it out with the new games. Like, it's a dope storyline. There's really no need to fuck with it, but especially after waiting this long to give us what we want. But I'm just excited to see it and to be fucking obnoxious. So that needs to come out ASAP, truly. But if there's no Johnny Cage, we riot, because what the fuck. What else? And so, keeping with things from my childhood that I don't want to see change, the Ninja Turtles have several comic books out, and I haven't been reading them. I never did. You know, outside of the movies and the cartoons from way back in the video games, I didn't really pay attention to them. I figured these comics were for the kids, but they're still an irreplaceable part of my childhood and beloved characters. And last year, sometime, it was announced that there was going to be a story arc, a comic book, where three of the four Ninja Turtles died. And they didn't say which three it was, but then the whole storyline was called The Last Ronin, where you got the one survivor who's going around, and he's dark. The Ninja Turtles were never known for being killers or anything. They always beat the Foot Clan up. And I'm sure some people died incidentally, but they weren't murderers. But now this guy is like Gritty Reboot. He's going around killing everybody because he doesn't care anymore because his brothers are dead. And I was waiting to see if it was going to be one complete book, or if there was going to be possibly an anime movie to come out for it, which would have been hard to watch, kind of like, The Killing Joke or Death in the Family for Batman. But it turns out that they're releasing the books quarterly. So as of right now, February 22nd, book 2 is out, and book 3 is supposed to come out March 31st. But I went down the rabbit hole and ended up reading all of books 1 and 2, and it's triggering, man. You hate to see the turtles like that. It's great writing so far. It's not bad, but it's just like, turtles aren't supposed to die in my brain. I don't know. But more to follow on that as it develops. The Punisher and Jessica Jones looks like the rights have reverted back to Marvel/Disney from Netflix. So the Punisher's coming back, which makes sense. We kind of expected that because the Punisher is supposed to be rumored to be joining the MCU. So as long as it's Jon Bernthal, I'm fine with that because he's the only Punisher that we need right now. Jessica Jones, I could take it or lead. Like, my group chat's got a running joke that she had 3 seasons and she didn't take a bath not once. She didn't wash her ass, but she been fucking. It's just disgusting. It's muy sucio, muy sucio. Out of those, they need to bring Luke Cage back, and I would like to see Daredevil come back. I could take or leave Iron Fist, although I heard that the last season got good, and I just haven't watched it yet. And I'm probably going to watch it, but I feel no need to hurry up and rush to it. I watched Judas and the Black Messiah, and, beyond whether or not it was a good movie or not, it was a necessary movie. I didn't anticipate getting as triggered as I thought as I did, because I knew the story forward and backwards, like, not just what happened with Fred Hampton, but his associates leading up to his death. The various shootings, the run-ins with police and everything like that. But watching him in his house get shot up, I was good, and then I just suddenly wasn't good. There was no build-up. It was just, I knew it was coming, and I couldn't help it. It greatly painted how this was nothing but a hit. There was no intrigue, no mystery to it, and what they feared out of this 21-year-old, I can't imagine being 21 and assuming that sort of role in our liberation, let alone having my life ended after being falsely imprisoned while my child was, never meeting your child, never being there really for your fiance while she's, growing your child and dying right there while she's pregnant. That's insane. And to be 21 and to have that much influence, have working class whites who are otherwise fucking racist, have gangs who are at each other's throat, united under you for the purpose of re-enfranchising black people or poor people. And J. Edgar Hoover, who'd already seen Malcolm and Dr. King, did not want another Messiah to write, and this was a flat-on hit. And then, of course, the title, it tells you what the movie was about, Judas, the Black Messiah, where William O'Neill, who rose to a high role within a trusted role in Fred Hampton's party to be the informant who was actually trying to get him arrested, but they ended up, it was proven that Fred behind jail bars wasn't going to be enough for them because in their mind, that strengthened his position. It made him into an icon. So they sanctioned his murder and they used Bill O'Neill's blueprints to do so. And for those of you who don't know, Bill O'Neill gave one interview, and the night that it aired, he killed himself back in the 70s. And how he killed him, he jumped out of a car and ran into traffic, and he was hit by a car. So, you know, Lakeith Stanfield, who is a brilliant actor, but he's said some he done some problematic shit. In fact, I didn't meet him, but I ran into him in Lenox Mall one time. I was like, that looks like the dude from Atlanta. But like when he saw that we recognized, it was just me and my homegirl. We didn't like run up to him and fanboy out or anything like that. But he like literally, it was comical. He raised his hand over his head and like trying to duck behind it, like we wouldn't see him anymore, and just ran down the escalator. I'm like, all right, nigga, damn, I couldn't even remember your fucking name. But brilliant actor. And I know that him and Charlamagne had gotten spicy over some because his comments about black media outlets and everything. Where there's some merit to him, he's also very, very off base as far as saying that because these black outlets show a wide variety of black experience, even the negative, that they are anti-black, which gets into that respectability politics, the elitist blackness, that we have to control. Yeah, I do agree we have to control our narrative, but by only we have to stop embarrassing each other in front of white men. Fuck the white man and his perception, because if it's us, we need to view it. But that's where him and Charlamagne broke up, because I'm no fan of Charlamagne either. You know, Charlamagne he's an accomplished guy, he's an icon and everything like that, but he's done plenty of coon shit while calling out other people's coon shit in and of itself. So I don't really have a dog in the fight between either of their beefs, but Charlamagne has been known to do some whole shit, and he tried it this time because he had an interview with Daniel Kaluuya, basically, and during the course of the interview was trying to be like, hey, I feel like Lakeith was born for that role, that snitch. Did he have any snitch tendencies and all this other shit? And Daniel didn't fall into the trap and was like, yeah, we're not doing that, yeah? And it was kind of embarrassing that it was cool that the British guy, because Daniel's super British, like Idris is British, but Idris sounds like he comes from the black part of London. Daniel sounds like, you know, he regularly eats Grey Poupon. Not calling him a sellout or anything. It's just that the acting is just so prim and proper on some Bridgerton shit. And he even it was refreshing to know that he was cognizant, not just because you know he's friends with Lakeith and he knows that they had beef with Charlamagne, but he's cognizant not to feed into the negativity, especially around this project, and that we need to be as united as possible. But then too, it's like, you know, he provided character level, actor level insight into the screenplay and what it took to play these characters, and the strain it took on Lakeith, which I respected. Lakeith, of course, fired back like, man, he's doing some whole shit, keep my name out your mouth, whatever, just go worry about your own coon shit, whatever. So on this one, I'm on Lakeith's side because that shit was just some catty female shit. But whatever. Go see the movie. Just brace yourself. I will say my one main critique of the movie was that Daniel Kaluuya's accent at time was very hard to navigate, so you might want to have the subtitles on. If you listen to actual interviews of Fred Hampton speaking, you could see where his inspiration or where he was trying to take the accent to it. And when he was just speaking by himself at normal speed, it was fine. But it was when it got conversational, where he had to like switch up subjects and stuff like that, going back and forth, that it got really hard to understand, or at least to me. So, but other than that, great movie, necessary movie. And it should serve as nothing else but a reminder that no matter how far we think we've come, at a moment's notice they will blank us out and start us back to one. We need to have that military mindset. That doesn't mean you need to go out there and die a revolutionary death immediately. No, martyrs don't serve us. You let General Patton said himself, like, nobody needs a martyr. Like, you make the enemy die for his country. Dying for your country never won anybody a war. So, but at the same time, we need to know exactly who we're dealing with, and I feel like this movie adequately paints exactly that. Also, before I got thrown in Facebook jail, I posted a meme. It was like, why do you think I'm single? All shade is welcome. And I expected jokes, you know, dumb shit. And we got them. Some people were talking about my so-called blouse from my birthday picture. It's just a fucking floral shirt. Fuck y'all. But people got into their psychoanalytical bags, which I'm like, I'm no expert, you know. I don't really go to therapy, but I'm like, as far as unlicensed diagnosis and parents, you guys did a pretty good job. Like, and I don't want to say a pretty good job saying that y'all were accurate. I mean, a lot of it comes down to I either mask my insecurity with bravado, or that I feel like I'm not where I want to be, so I don't get a girlfriend. Whoop whoop. Which a lot of that, some of y'all had insight because we've had the conversations and everything. I don't know why y'all so desperate to see me with somebody's daughter. I mean, I guess part of it is y'all just want to see me happy. The other part of it is like y'all figure I'm old, nigga, have some kids, whatever. I don't know. But I will say this: most of y'all are paying attention to me, or you answered that from a place of true thought and concern, which was refreshing to me. I didn't think people paid me that much mind. I thought y'all just come to my page and laugh, so that was cool. Not saying that all of you guys were right, but I can't outright say all of you were wrong because there was some insight there. So yeah, that's for me to know and ponder. But y'all showed up. That was funny. In Fire Marshal Bill news, Tory Lanez posted a picture of him playing basketball like we wasn't going to notice that the top of his head looked like a patchy Brillo patch. A patchy Brillo, that wasn't funny. It sounded better in my head. But the point is, this nigga's head looked like Tiger Woods was playing golf on it and stripped the green. Like, there was patches missed out of divots. Like, it looked like, and I seen the meme as soon as I thought it, Home Alone, where Joe Pesci's character got caught underneath the blowtorch and they burned the hat on his head. That's exactly what the fuck it looked like. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, nigga, you're rich. Like, what the fuck are you doing, son? Like, get the hair plugs, shave that shit off, like, do something. Get one of those barbers to do those the lace fronts or whatever the hell. You're too rich for that shit, but you're a fucking clown. And if and when you get the justice that you deserve, I'm sure your hair is gonna look plenty rough on the inside. Whatever, fuck you. There seems to be a controversy surrounding Joe Biden and the push for getting $50,000 worth of student loan forgiveness. And while some of it is disingenuous, some of it's not, because I'm in the spirit of holding your politicians accountable, and that's not just saying for what promises they made to you. That's the bare minimum. It's the promises they made to you. You also need to hold your representation accountable for what you want from them, regardless of if they're willing to do it or not. Let them know that, okay, your promises got you here, but it's not enough. And if you want our continued support, you're going to have to keep working for us. So, in that sense, I'm kind of behind this. People need to remember that Biden only promised $10K of forgiveness. And to some people that will play off your loans, but for the vast majority, I understand that's not even your interest, or it's a drop in the bucket. So people of the AOC camp are pushing for $50K. And of course, that's anytime you say more money, it's just like the stimulus. Oh, it was like a bidding war, and then it went away. So the people are clamoring for it and saying, oh, Biden is nothing. I'm like, again, he did not promise you $50K, but you need to hold him to the fire, because Biden even said that I can't do that without going to Congress. Well, some people are like, well, go to Congress, and if they say no, we'll vote them out. AOC didn't even let him get off the hook with that. He said, Biden can do this the same way he can do the 10K, he can do the 50K. It's a stroke of a pen. He doesn't need us, but even if he does, we'll do the work. So, you know, I'm all for it, even though I don't have anywhere near that amount of student loans. I'm not going to be like these head asses who are anti-immigration because, oh, we did it right. Like, yeah, I got a scholarship. But how head ass would it be if I said that, oh, those of you motherfuckers who went into debt, fuck y'all. I did it the right way. That's just fucking stupid. There's bigger concerns, or people who got cures for their disease. Oh, you ain't get a cure, get in line, wait for your cure for the medical community. So what if you die? That is just fucking dumb. All right, student loan forgiveness, these loans were predatory and not in the best interest of the American public, especially when the cost of education has been allowed to rise unchecked for no fucking reason. It's insane. Lil Boosie is minding everybody else's business but his own again. He offered his unsolicited opinion about how Lorie Harvey, who ain't even thinking about this nigga, who he couldn't even get in the same room with this to sniff the hem of her cooch, let alone presume that she would want him, is basically saying how she's not wife material because of her mileage, her body count, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm like, nigga, don't you have like 19 kids by like 18 different women? Like, shut the fuck up. And your parenting skills ain't exactly all, like, I don't want to say parenting. Your adulting skills aren't there when you think it's okay to hire sex workers for 14-year-olds so you can make sure they're not gay. Oh, no, by the way, I'm using sex worker liberally. You stop being a sex worker and you become a rapist when you take that contract. But that's a whole other conversation nobody wants to have. But who the fuck is listening to Lil Boosie anymore when... And then he's calling Mike a simp, Michael B. Jordan, like, Michael B. Jordan ain't worth... I don't know what I thought Lil Boosie's net worth was, but I thought it was at least a cool $1 million, $2 million. But I guess all them court cases and not selling records and everything caught up because it's only 800,000. And don't get me wrong, I'm a broke boy. I ain't got nothing nowhere near 800,000. But the point is, where the fuck do you get off talking about somebody who could buy and sell your life 3 and 4 or 5 times over? Oh, you're a real nigga. Yeah, alright, nigga, I'll be a simp and I'll be rich and I'll be here long after you're gone with your 19 kids. Fuck you. And my favorite part about all this is how Lorie Harvey does not waste any time to try and clarify anything. She lives her life, she lets y'all niggas talk. She dates her niggas, she moves on. She dates her niggas, she moves on. So, shout out to them. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh died. So, rest in piss. I saw a meme that made me laugh where it was like how Rush Limbaugh was so against unisex or non-gender bathrooms, and now his grave is about to become one. Y'all niggas are dumb. Oh, I can see niggas squatting and pee on this nigga's grave. Fuck him, dog. He was the most racist. Well, not the most racist, but he was quite racist. I one thing that stood out to me, and you know, this is over years because he was on the radio for a long time, just allowed to be a right-wing political hack, inciting hatred and violence. He posted a picture of him with a cigar, talking about I can breathe because I obey the law in response to George Floyd getting knelt on. And then a few weeks later, he was diagnosed, or it was revealed that he had stage 4 lung cancer. So how them apples taste, bitch? Fuck you. I saw another one tweet that said sending prayers down because you know his ass ain't nowhere near anybody's conception of heaven. I don't care whatever God you worship. Fuck him. Bob Dole also died. And I'm not, you know, again, I hold the left and the right wing equally accountable, but for some reason, Bob Dole had big racist energy, but I didn't quite find anything like a smoking gun like there's plenty of for Rush Limbaugh for anything overtly racist that Bob Dole did other than just being a rich white man that's out of touch in America. But, in fact, a lot of it seemed that he was one of the more racially sensitive Republican presences up until he debated the validity of affirmative action, which in and of itself wouldn't necessarily make him racist, but I think some of the language that he cited, because Republicans refuse to accept the fact that white women benefit from affirmative action more than anybody. But of course, you know, the image of the welfare queen and everything else being black, the same thing that black people are the face of affirmative action, even though white women are the principal beneficiaries of it. So, yeah, Bob Dole's alright with me. He died. He's old as hell. He lived a good life. The talking head that I wish the fuck would go away is Herschel Walker. You know, this dude used to be a hero to me as a Dallas Cowboys fan. It's just an athlete. Like he was a rare specimen, and even like being as old as he is, he was competing in MMA and still strong as shit. And he's taking his head assness to fucking Congress to lobby against. First of all, what organization does Herschel Walker represent that he's lobbying to Congress against reparations for Black Americans? Because I know we didn't send him up there. Like, I want to know what organization he went up there to represent. How did he just get this avenue? Like, how did he just, hey, Congress, can I go up there and tell you why not to give black people what they're so desperately deserve and are owed? But because he's a prominent black, he's allowed to have a platform to go up there and talk about how slavery was over a long time ago. What the fuck does that mean? It's just like COVID, you can be over COVID and never get your lungs back. Him and his little fruity son need to go somewhere. Like, I'm just tired of it. What is this? Oh, there's a link. I should probably open that. So yeah, getting into why I'm in Facebook jail. So I called someone and I quote, an ashy cockroach. And if you can see the picture of him, he indeed resembled an ashy cockroach. But that's besides the point. The algorithm got me. It's not like he reported me. And what we were discussing was the story of a black mother who had to leave her children in a hotel room. And a lot of people went immediately to go attack the black woman and this, that, and the third. And then I went on this dude who's like, why? You didn't even look up there. You just assumed she's a bitter baby mama. And that you didn't even read or bother to find out what her circumstance was. And then, like, a day later, this jackass comes in there and starts, did you even read his comment? This, that, I'm like, now, who are you? Why are you talking to me? And then he goes, oh, you just came on here to simp and to pander for the women. I'm like, anytime people call me, and I made a status about this, but when you call, I'm not saying you can't call me a simp, and I might be a simp in comparison to some of you super pimp niggas, whatever, that doesn't hurt my feelings. But what you're not going to do is look like the scrapings of a public restaurant table, like the gum that's been sitting there for years and chewed and rechewed by homeless people put back. You're not gonna look like that and call me a simp and assume and insinuate that I have to pander to get women, when all I actually have to do is be in the same room as you and a woman, and that will get me women, because they're not coming to you. They're not. And that's not to say that I think I'm just the prettiest motherfucker ever. Y'all niggas can see me on this video, YouTube. I'm embracing this whole quarantine, not having to get my hair or keep my hair done, shaggy beard, whatever it may be. I clean up when I want to, but that's how bad this nigga looked. Like, so I called him an ashy cockroach, which I thought was being polite instead of calling what I wanted to call it, because I know if you use some of the venom, you're gonna get thrown in jail. And the algorithm was so offended that as soon I hadn't even pressed my finger, like lifted my finger off the pad after typing ashy cockroach, because and I got thrown in Facebook jail. Mind you, he had already called me a homosexual, like literally. He had threatened to whip my ass 7 days from Sunday, which started to make me wonder if he was even black, because when I went to his page to go, look at where he got the audacity from to talk to me like this. He's from DC, evidently. At least that's what he put on there. And his job said he works at Washington Medical Center. But that didn't offend the Facebook algorithm, the threats, and the derogatory use of homosexual. But calling someone an ashy, I'm wondering now, what can I say without doing it? Like when I come back, I'm gonna call somebody a big dumb doo-doo head and see if that fucking triggers the goddamn algorithm. Because what can I say anymore? It's I don't know. But yeah. So I think I'm like 4 days into a 30-day bid. I don't know. I'll see y'all when I get back out. Story that I also saw. So you guys will recall a few years ago, there was a story about this woman. She hit the Powerball for like $100-something million. And she has this boyfriend who was her fiance. It was so her name is Marie Holmes. And she had a fiance who's constantly in and out of jail. She won a $188 million jackpot. And she kept bailing this man out, buying him gifts, bailing him out for over tens of millions of dollars in bond money, because this motherfucker kept getting arrested. So, and I think Ayanna even put her on, like, what the fuck are you doing, bitch? Like, what's wrong with you? And yeah, I just lost track of them, because I figured one day we're going to get a story. And he's a drug trafficker, a drug dealer, whatever. He got a 7-year sentence, and he was trying to bail her out, keep him out on bail, get him better lawyers, whatever. But now it looks like he's suing her. And I don't know what the grounds are for this, but the fact that, like, some of the things that are being mentioned, like, he bought her a $250,000, she bought him a $250,000 modified Chevy Stingray. Who pays $250,000 for a fucking Stingray? $100,000 worth of clothes and jewelry, $600,000 of auto restoration business. So she put him into a business. Other lump sum purchases. It looks like she at some point tried to date somebody else, and I really don't know what the reason is, but I honestly hope he wins. And when I posted it, some other people thought that he was gonna win too. They have 2 kids together, which is fucking hilarious too. And he's in jail. He's gonna get out in 2023, so maybe for child support. I don't know, but I hope she loses, because the hard head make a soft behind. And he's trash, but she let him. Fuck him. There was an astronaut, so for you, I don't know how much of my dwindling audience is flat earthers, but those of you who are, or those of you who need something to show the flat earthers, there's a photo of an astronaut, Bruce McCandless, floating in space over the Earth, and you can clearly see the curvature of the Earth. But what makes it so iconic, not just proving that, again, the Earth is not flat, but he's doing so untethered. Like, he's not connected to the space station or shuttle. He's got a self-contained life support system in his suit and propulsion, like air propulsion, to maneuver. And that's the first time that that's ever happened. So Bruce McCandless III made history. At the same time that Bruce was orbiting us, chilling up there, Boeing 777 planes were coming apart over our skies. An engine fell apart, caught fire, fell apart, and some of it landed on a home in Denver, Colorado. Miraculously, nobody was killed, and the pilots were able to make an emergency landing back into Denver Airport. But right as that was happening, another 777 over in Holland was raining parts over Dutch towns, to the point where now Japan has grounded any 777 flights out of there, and a number of other airlines have grounded them. They believe that or at least they suspect that the cause is not the plane itself, but the engines, because I guess there's a variety of companies who provide engines for this plane, and the Pratt & Whitney engines are looking to be the smoking gun right now. So more to follow if that comes out. Y'all ain't supposed to be traveling like that any fucking way. It's a pandemic. Tragic news, there was a lung transplant that was done last year at the beginning of the pandemic, and evidently those lungs were infected with COVID-19 and nobody knew. And they were transplanted into a new donor or a recipient who died. And who knows what's going to come lawsuit-wise. That's just insane that you finally get a lung transplant and you get the Ronin and die. So, man, look, we got to do what we all need to do to get out of this shit. I saw a meme, I'm sure it's a joke, but there's truth in jest where people were like, man, I lost my sense of smell and taste last week and didn't tell nobody. That shit is not cool, man. Like, there are new strains popping up every day, which means that even with the vaccine, the shit is mutating. The only thing that's going to keep us ahead of this, or get us ahead of this, is safe practices. Being that much more clean. I'm looking at you motherfuckers who go in the bathroom and don't wash your fucking hands. You know, not crowding when you don't have to. And if you are doing gatherings, do temperature checks, providing people more space than you would normally to socialize. And if you get a sniffle, just call it off, man. It's not fucking worth it. A friend of a friend, her name's Kendra, her mother died a week before her birthday from COVID. And I'm getting more stories like that. People's parents, people's brothers, people's uncles are dying from this disease. And of course, it's affecting us, black and brown people, way more. We got to get us through this, and we're not going to do it by being head asses. I'm going to end on the story that I kind of alluded to earlier about the single mother and why I got into the argument with the ashy cockroach. And just, when I was a kid growing up, I was the oldest of two, so my sister's 2.5 years younger than me. But I can remember being left in the house alone as early as 8, 9, 10. I think the law was 10 there, but not only just left in the house alone, but watching my sister, because my 2 years made me that much more, in charge, whatever. So, and that was not because my parents didn't wanted to go out and have a date or anything. They had to fucking work. So, and the same shit, different day. Like, this is a single mother who evidently was staying out of a hotel, which should be red flag number one, because hotels ain't fucking cheap, and you pay daily. She's staying out of a hotel. She has a job at a pizza joint, which is not paying ducats, and she has 2 young children. All right. I should have pulled the story up, but I believe one of them was 10, and one of them was 8, one of them was 3. Let me look this up. Mother leaves children. Hotel. But the point is, she's at work. Okay, she's living out of a hotel. And it's not even a hotel, it's a motel. And while she's at work, the police were called. Oh, excuse me, they're 9 and 3. She has a 7-year-old, so she has a third child, a 7-year-old who was not with them. and this was in Ohio, Liberty Township, Ohio. Her name is Shayna Bell, and she was at work at Little Caesars. So even if she's the fucking supervisor manager, what is she making? Maybe 20 an hour, which is nothing for 3 fucking kids. Let me tell you, I don't care where you live. She left the kids in the motel, and somebody called the police, and she was arrested, and her kids were taken from her. It was found out later that the child's father called the police. Now, let's think about what that means. You called the police knowing your children were somewhere alone rather than going to where your children were to watch them or taking the children with you. Now, I don't know what the relationship is between the mother and them. Maybe they're going through a bit of divorce, or not divorce, or their relationship is violent, cantankerous, abusive, whatever it may be, or they just separated. Maybe, you know what I mean? But I do know as a father, if you're concerned, truly concerned for the safety of your children, and that's the sole thing that drove you to call the police, what's more important to you, calling the police or going to go see to the safety of your child? Then the question is, why are they in a hotel and you're not there? What were you doing? And I'm sure more will come to find out as this story further develops that this dude is most likely not contributing a fucking dime to these kids, let alone helping out, and that this was merely just a power play to screw this mother over who was trying to feed her kids. Now, thankfully, there was a push once her story went viral, and several high-profile athletes donated to her GoFundMe. Love to see that. But I'm more disturbed by the Ashies who just could not, in the heat of doing all this knob-slob in the future, of talking about simps this, simps that, could not wait to run to the internet to vilify this black woman who, I promise you, some of you niggas talking about this shit, your moms did the same fucking thing. Every day I'm reminded about how what I thought was the minority, and I'm sure it still is the minority, but I thought it was like a rare minority of niggas who think like this, whose first step, whose first instinct, whose first move is to denigrate and villainize and demonize black women. But they're everywhere, man. It's insane. It is insane. And I actually got a clip here. Let's see if we can get that, because it looks like they're interviewing her.
They're my world.
What the hell?
Bring me joy. They make me laugh.
Oh, she cute.
They're my world.
When you talk to Shayna Bell about her 3 children, Faith, Jayshawn, and Jade, ages 9, 7, and 3,
Cute kid.
her face just lights up.
I would never do anything to harm my kids. My kids are everything to me. That's all I do is go to work and take care of my kids.
It was 1 week ago today. Bell
This
was
is a
arrested
tiny motel room.
at Little Caesars, accused of leaving her daughters by themselves inside the Motel 6 hotel room where she's been living.
I had to go to work. My daughter decided that she wanted to stay here. My daughter told me that this is where she wanted to be. And I felt that she was old enough to be able to sit here with her sister for a few hours. Because my job is right down the street.
But Bell ended up landing 2 misdemeanor charges of endangering children and spent the night in jail after her children's father called police. Although she says it's embarrassing, Bell isn't mad at anyone.
I never set blame on anybody for anything. Because at the end of the day, nobody left my kids in the hotel but me.
That's a mature woman.
Situation started. I'm just trying to keep a level head and trying to.
I wish I could see her face, man. Not just because she's cute, because Shorty is cute.
The
But
story gained a lot of attention from across the country, from both the haters and those who support the working mom of 3.
A lot of people are saying hurtful things, but a lot of people are also being there for me and showing like great support. Like, I have over $100,000 on a GoFundMe account right now. Like, I didn't ask for that, but people gave it to me, and I'm just like, I'm over appreciative to what's going on.
She said she's going to use that money to buy a house for her children to live in and everything they need. In Liberty Township, Nadine Grimlin, WKBN 27 First News.
if for nothing else, just the tone of humility, the acceptance of responsibility, the staying away from any drama when she very well could have been like, that nigga ain't doing shit for me, da 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 da. And you ashy motherfuckers are still on here talking shit about black. Sisters, I'm sorry, keep your heads up. That's all I got, man. I got some shit to tend to. be back at you next week because I'm in Facebook jail. But again, hit me up if y'all niggas need anything for me to talk about. If y'all want to be on the show, I want to do a live. I'll do a live show when I get back out of jail because I've been promising that. So I'll have a co-host or whoever lined up for that, and I will use this jail period to give y'all what y'all promised, my biography of what happened to me in the Air Force, because I'm actually starting my last and final leg of that fight, trying to get my discharge upgraded, my security clearance back, and just my honor reinstated. But other than that, you guys take care of yourselves. Please, please, please stay safe and secure and healthy in these Rona streets. It's not a game. People are dying every day. For those of you guys in Texas, please band together. If there's any, it's hard to say prep because people don't understand. And that's not the thing. People got weird on the internet to say, "Oh, why haven't you prepped for it? Oh, get a generator." Most of you motherfuckers wouldn't know what to do with a generator if I put one right in front of you. Okay, you ain't thought about how to hook it up to your house so that you can power your house. You ain't thought about the fuel that you're going to need to run the generator, where you're going to keep it so that the fuel stays dry and ready and able to use and safe, or how the generator won't freeze and how it won't throw fumes back in your house and kill everybody. Like, y'all are fucking stupid. This is a disaster for a reason. I lived in North Dakota where people are used to it, and the cold kill motherfuckers every year. So you can imagine how this is in a state that people don't even have fucking winter clothes. So it looks like Texas thawed out today, 70-something degrees, and I just hope that they put that heat under every one of these motherfuckers who got rich behind letting these people die. But other than that, y'all stay safe. I'll see y'all next week.